You keep searching for equals because admitting superiority terrifies you. Equality is camouflage for weakness, a polite cage built to keep predators dull and obedient. This chapter shatters the comforting myth of equals and forces a new frame. Hierarchy is natural, denial is lethal. The viewer is repositioned from seeker to evaluator, exposes why humans cling to equality narratives to avoid accountability and risk, reveals how this mechanism keeps capable men stalled, neutralized and predictable, maps recurring archetypes around you, those who mimic equality, those who drain it, and those who never ask for it. The viewer learns pattern recognition over sentiment, deepens the threat using history, power dynamics, and human nature to show how equal footing is exploited, demonstrates how predators use fairness language to disarm rivals, outlines a behavioral shift from mutual validation to strategic alignment. The viewer learns how to choose positions, alliances, and distances that preserve leverage and sovereignty, forces an identity death, abandoning the need for peers, approval, or mirrors, replaces it with a solitary operating identity built on standards, dominance, and controlled isolation. You've been trained to look sideways instead of up or down, trained to scan rooms asking, "Who is my equal?" That question already exposes the flaw. Equality is not a natural lens, it's a social anesthesia. It dulls instinct. It slows judgment. It keeps you compliant. In nature, nothing searches for equals. Predators assess advantage. Prey looks for safety. Only humans, domesticated and softened, are taught to seek parity. Why? Because equality neutralizes ambition. It flattens hierarchy. It makes weak men feel morally superior for staying weak. The moment you believe in equals, you stop measuring reality. You stop asking who has leverage, who sets terms, who can walk away. You replace cold assessment with emotional comfort. That's not morality. That's self-sedation. Power does not recognize equality. Power recognizes position, distance, access, control. When two men mate, there is no neutral ground, only an unresolved hierarchy. Someone adapts, someone leads, someone follows. Pretending otherwise doesn't make you noble. It makes you blind. The equality lens is especially dangerous for capable men. If you have intelligence, discipline, or potential, equality becomes a leash. You slow your pace to avoid standing out. You dilute your standards to avoid conflict. You keep company that feels balanced instead of aligned. Over time, you shrink not because you lacked ability, but because you refused asymmetry. Here's the inversion you were never told. Seeking equals is a confession of insecurity. Men who are sovereign don't look for mirrors. They look for terrain. They don't ask who matches them. They ask who belongs where. Equality is a negotiation tactic used by those who lack the strength to impose terms. This is why equality language floods workplaces, friendships, and relationships. It's a control mechanism. If everyone is equal, no one is allowed to dominate, outgrow, or disengage without guilt. The group stays stable, the system stays intact, and the ambitious man learns to apologize for his edge. Destroy that lens now. Stop evaluating people based on how similar they feel to you. Similarity is irrelevant. Start evaluating based on function. Who adds reach? Who drains energy? Who challenges your position? Who benefits from you staying still? This is not cynicism. This is clarity. Once the equality myth collapses, something uncomfortable happens. Responsibility returns. You can no longer hide behind fairness or mutuality. If you are above, you must lead or separate. If you are below, you must rise or submit. There is no moral cushion in hierarchy, only consequence. This is the first cut, surgical, necessary, painful. Without this shift, every strategy that follows will fail. You'll keep choosing balanced lives instead of powerful ones. You'll keep mistaking comfort for wisdom. You'll keep searching for equals while more ruthless men decide your environment. Hierarchy is not cruelty. Denial of hierarchy is. Accept this lens, and the world reorganizes itself. Reject it, and you remain trapped forever looking sideways, never realizing the game was vertical all along. False parity is not an accident. It's a psychological defense mechanism designed to protect the ego from exposure. Equality feels safe because it removes measurement. If everyone is equal, no one has to confront where they truly stand. The human mind hates hierarchy when it's losing, so it invents stories to neutralize it. We're all the same. No one is better. Everyone has value. These phrases don't describe reality. They anesthetize it. They reduce friction. They prevent reckoning. False parity emerges strongest in environments where competition is unavoidable but socially punished. Workplaces, social circles, modern relationships. The rule becomes unspoken but absolute. Do not outgrow the group. Anyone who does is labeled arrogant, toxic, or unrelatable. This isn't ethics, it's containment. Psychologically, false parity serves three functions. First, it protects fragile identity. If outcomes differ, effort must be examined. If effort differs, discipline must be questioned. That threatens self-image. Equality erases that threat. It says outcomes don't matter, only intention. Weak men survive comfortably inside that logic. Second, it enforces predictability. Equal players behave similarly. They don't take sharp risks. They don't move decisively. They wait for consensus. Systems love this. Predictable men are manageable men. You don't need to control someone who has already self-limited. Third, it punishes asymmetry. The moment you operate outside the average, thinking faster, moving harder, detaching emotionally, you disrupt the illusion. The group responds with social pressure, not open hostility. Subtle correction, jokes, moral framing, withdrawal of approval. The message is clear. Come back down. This is why intelligent but naive men get trapped the longest. You see the inefficiency, you feel the drag, but you hesitate to act because you've been taught that separation equals betrayal. Loyalty becomes the leash. Fairness becomes the cage. False parity is especially effective because it disguises submission as virtue. You're told restraint is maturity. Compromise is wisdom. Humility means minimizing yourself. Over time, you internalize this. You stop pushing. Not because you can't, but because it feels wrong to win alone. Understand this. No hierarchy disappears just because you refuse to name it. It only goes underground. Power doesn't evaporate. It concentrates. While you're busy pretending to be equal, others are quietly positioning themselves above you, controlling access, setting rules, extracting value. The most dangerous part, false parity convinces you that stagnation is stability, that staying the same is safer than advancing. You trade growth for acceptance, and acceptance is conditional, granted only as long as you remain useful and non-threatening. Once you see this mechanism, you can't unsee it. You start noticing how often equality language appears right before someone asks you to slow down, share more, explain yourself, or justify your edge. It's never neutral. It's always strategic. This chapter is not about becoming cruel. It's about becoming honest. Parity is not a fact of nature. It's a social agreement, and agreements can be rejected. If you continue operating under false parity, every move you make will be compromised. Your decisions will be negotiated. Your ambition diluted. Your instincts second-guessed. You will live inside someone else's comfort threshold. Drop the illusion. Accept measurement. Accept difference. Accept ranking not as an insult, but as orientation. Only then can you move with precision instead of permission. Once the equality lens is destroyed, patterns emerge. People stop looking random. Behavior clusters. Roles reveal themselves. Around every capable man, three archetypes appear without fail. If you can't identify them, you will be managed by them. First, the pretenders. These are men who perform equality. They mirror your language, adopt your opinions, echo your ambitions. On the surface, they look aligned. In reality, they are measuring you, studying your pace, your limits, your tolerance. Pretenders don't compete directly. They camouflage. Their goal isn't to surpass you, but to stay close enough to siphon relevance. They speak of collaboration, brotherhood, shared journeys. What they really want is cover. Pretenders fear exposure more than failure. As long as you treat them as equals, they remain untested. The moment hierarchy becomes explicit standards, output, consequences, they fade, sabotage, or moralize. Watch for discomfort when expectations rise. That's the tell. Second, the parasites. These don't hide, they attach. Parasites thrive on access, not merit. Your energy, your clarity, your momentum, these are their resources. They frame dependence as loyalty and proximity as friendship. They always need something: advice, validation, opportunity, emotional labor. And they always arrive during your ascent, never your rebuild. Parasites weaponize guilt. If you pull away, you're selfish. If you enforce boundaries, you've changed. Their survival depends on your availability. The equality myth protects them perfectly because if you're equal, you owe them time, attention, space. They drain you slowly, not violently. Death by friction. Cutting parasites feels brutal because they make themselves familiar, but familiarity is not value. And generosity without selectivity is suicide. Third, the sovereign. Rare, quiet, often misjudged. Sovereigns do not seek equality, nor do they reject it emotionally. They simply operate on a different axis. They don't compete for approval. They don't cling. They don't explain themselves unnecessarily. Their presence creates gravity, not noise. A sovereign doesn't ask where they stand, they decide where they operate. They recognize hierarchy instantly and move accordingly. If above, they lead without apology. If below, they extract knowledge and leave. No resentment, no loyalty theatre, just precision. Here's the critical inversion. Most men mistake pretenders for allies and parasites for friends, while ignoring sovereigns entirely. Why? Because sovereigns don't flatter, they don't reassure, they don't slow down for you, they force self-evaluation by existing. This chapter is not about labeling others, it's about locating yourself. At different points in your life, you have been all three. The danger is staying one too long. Pretenders stagnate, parasites decay, sovereigns compound. Once you can identify these archetypes, your social world simplifies. You stop over-investing. You stop explaining. You stop tolerating drag disguised as connection. You begin choosing distance strategically, not emotionally. This is where most men hesitate. They see the patterns, but refuse to act. They tell themselves it's harmless, temporary, manageable. That hesitation is the opening predators wait for. Hierarchy does not care about your intentions. It responds to behavior. If you allow pretenders access, they dilute you. If you tolerate parasites, they exhaust you. If you ignore sovereigns, you remain local while others go global. Selection is not cruelty. It is survival with awareness. In the next phase, the threat escalates, because once you step out of false parity and begin selecting consciously, resistance appears. Not obvious, strategic, historical, human. That's where this becomes dangerous. Once you stop playing equal, the environment reacts. Not emotionally, strategically. Equality stops being a belief and reveals itself as a tool, used against you. Historically, power has never opposed hierarchy. It disguises it. Every empire, institution, and ruling class understood the same rule. Control the language, and you control the behavior. Equality language was never meant to elevate everyone. It was meant to pacify those below while consolidating power above. Look closely at history. Elites never speak in terms of equality among themselves. They speak of rank, lineage, leverage, and succession. Equality is reserved for the masses, the ones who must be managed without force. It keeps resentment diffused and ambition unfocused. This pattern repeats at every scale. In tribes, the strongest hunter didn't argue equality. He distributed food and kept authority. In courts, kings spoke of the people while operating through hierarchy. In modern systems, the language softened, but the structure didn't change. Power simply learned to smile. Here's the threat. Once you reject false parity, you expose the system's dependency on your compliance. And systems do not tolerate exposure. The response is subtle. You won't be attacked directly. Instead, equality will be weaponized morally. You'll be framed as selfish for setting standards, arrogant for creating distance, unfair for selecting asymmetrically. The accusation is designed to trigger your conditioning and pull you back into the herd. This is not accidental. Humans are wired to fear exile. Groups exploit this instinct ruthlessly. The moment you threaten group cohesion by outperforming, disengaging, or refusing consensus, the group reasserts control not with force, but with shame. And shame is more effective than violence. Equality language becomes the knife. Who do you think you are? We're all the same. No one is above anyone. Translation. Return to a position where you can be predicted and used. The most dangerous version of this weapon appears in relationships and alliances. When equality is invoked during conflict, it's rarely about fairness. It's about leverage. It's used to freeze movement, to stall decisions, to force compromise where dominance would resolve the issue cleanly. You've seen this before. Moments where decisive action would have solved everything but you hesitated because it felt too harsh. That hesitation wasn't morality. It was programming. Human nature defaults to hierarchy under pressure. In crises, people don't vote. They follow. Someone leads. Someone submits. Equality evaporates instantly. That alone should tell you it's not foundational, it's decorative. The deeper thread is internal. After years of exposure, men begin policing themselves. You don't need to be shamed anymore, you preempt it. You lower your standards before anyone challenges them. You explain yourself before being questioned. You negotiate against your own interests to appear reasonable. This is how capable men disappear without ever losing a fight. Understand this clearly. Equality is not used to stop tyrants. It is used to stop competitors. Tyrants ignore it. Competitors obey it. Once you see equality as a weapon, you stop arguing with it. You don't debate it. You don't try to redefine it. You step outside its range. And that's when things shift. Because stepping outside makes you visible. And visibility attracts both opportunity and threat. The next move is not emotional rebellion. It's strategic response. How you behave once the illusion is gone determines whether you ascend or get isolated and crushed. Once the illusion is gone, you don't argue with the world, you select against it. This is where most men fail. They wake up to the game, then try to play it fairly. Fairness is irrelevant. Position is everything. Strategic selection means choosing asymmetry on purpose, not equality, not balance. Advantage you. Stop asking who deserves access and start deciding who earns proximity. This is not cruelty. This is filtration. And filtration is how power survives. Every system that lasts filters aggressively. Armies don't recruit everyone. Predators don't chase every target. Surgeons don't operate with blunt tools. Yet men are told their social and professional lives should be open access. That lie exists to drain you. Selection begins with distance. You do not need many equals. You need few alignments, fewer voices, cleaner inputs. Noise is the enemy of precision. The moment you reduce unnecessary contact, your thinking sharpens, your pace increases, your tolerance for inefficiency drops. This is not loneliness. This is sovereignty. Asymmetry also means unequal contribution. You give less than you extract, or you extract knowledge, leverage, or positioning that compounds later. Men who insist on emotional symmetry burn out. Men who insist on strategic asymmetry endure. This requires abandoning performative loyalty. Loyalty is not owed to time spent, shared struggle, or past proximity. Loyalty is conditional on present alignment. Anything else is nostalgia masquerading as principle. You also stop over-explaining. Explanation is a tax paid by those seeking permission. Sovereign behavior is quiet, decisive, observable. When your actions are clean, explanation becomes optional, and optional explanation preserves power. Here's the critical behavior shift. You move first and let the environment react. Weak men wait for approval. Strategic men create facts. Distance is created. Standards are enforced. Access is limited. The reactions you receive tell you everything you need to know. Those who respect boundaries adjust. Those who benefited from your availability resist. Those who relied on equality language attack. This is data, not drama. Asymmetry also applies internally. You stop giving equal weight to every thought, impulse, or emotion. Some deserve authority. Others deserve silence. Discipline is hierarchy within. Without it, no external strategy holds. Understand this. Power is not accumulated by addition, but by subtraction. What you remove matters more than what you add. Remove parasitic obligations. Remove draining routines. Remove people who require you to stay small to remain comfortable. Selection will cost you socially, emotionally, temporarily. That cost is the price of independence. Avoid it, and you'll pay a larger one later in resentment, stagnation, and regret. This chapter is where you become dangerous, not loud, not aggressive, but ungovernable. Systems struggle with men they cannot predict. Groups fracture around men they cannot guilt. Parasites starve when access disappears. What remains after selection is smaller but sharper, and sharp things cut cleanly. The final step is irreversible, because once you've selected your world, you must select yourself. The old identity, the one seeking equality, approval, mirrors cannot survive this phase. It must be terminated. The final obstacle is not the world, it's the version of you that was built to survive inside it. That identity was adaptive once. It learned to blend, to cooperate, to seek approval disguised as harmony. It learned to measure itself against others instead of against standards. That identity kept you included but never sovereign. It cannot come with you. Identity death is not symbolic. It's functional. You stop responding the way you used to. You stop explaining your choices. You stop needing to be understood. The old self reaches for consensus. The new one operates on decision. This is where men hesitate, because identity death feels like loss. You lose familiarity. You lose social mirrors. You lose the comfort of being liked. But understand this: what you call yourself was shaped by incentives that no longer serve you. An outdated operating system doesn't get negotiated with. It gets replaced. The old identity asked, "How do I fit?" The new one asks, "What do I control?" The old identity optimized for acceptance. The new one optimizes for position. This shift is brutal because it removes excuses. You can no longer blame systems, people, or unfairness. Once you reject equality as a moral shield, you inherit full responsibility for your outcomes. That weight is what separates men permanently. You will notice the change in silence first. Fewer impulses to speak, less desire to correct others, no urge to justify. Silence is not passivity, it's dominance without display. Predators don't announce, they move. Your standards harden, not outwardly, internally. You stop tolerating weakness in your own behavior before you ever confront it externally. You become harder to access, harder to manipulate, harder to predict. This is when others begin projecting onto you cold, arrogant, distant. Those labels mean nothing. They are coping mechanisms. The new identity is built around sovereignty. Sovereignty means you are not owned by mood, group, or narrative. You choose when to engage and when to disappear. You decide the cost of access. You accept that misunderstanding is the price of independence. There is no hybrid form. You cannot keep one foot in equality and one in hierarchy. That tension will tear you apart. The old identity will sabotage the new every time pressure appears. So the replacement must be total. You stop seeing yourself as one of many and start seeing yourself as an operator in an environment. Environments are shaped, exited, or exploited. They are not negotiated with emotionally. Once this identity installs, something irreversible happens. You can no longer unsee hierarchy, selection, and leverage. You move differently. You speak less. You choose faster. And the world responds not with fairness, but with alignment or resistance. That's how you know the transformation worked. What remains is one final warning, because this path isolates the unprepared and exposes the careless. Power without clarity attracts enemies you didn't know you had. The closing is not motivation. It's a final line of defense. Once you step into sovereignty, the rules change permanently. There is no return to innocence, no comfortable anonymity. Power does not forgive awareness, it tests it. This is the warning most men never receive. When you stop seeking equals, stop performing fairness, stop offering yourself for consensus, you become a variable the system cannot model. That attracts attention, not admiration, scrutiny, silent resistance, opportunistic challenge. Weak men fear you, strong men measure you, institutions flag you. This is not paranoia, it is pattern. Power exposes before it rewards. The moment you rise above parity, pressure appears not to stop you outright, but to see if you flinch. Do you explain? Do you soften? Do you re-enter the herd voluntarily? Most do. That's why the system works. If you flinch once, you are catalogued. This is where discipline becomes non-negotiable. Not motivation, not emotion, discipline. You must regulate exposure. Speak less than you know. Reveal results, not process. Allow others to underestimate you. It lowers resistance and buys time. Never confuse isolation with insignificance. Predators operate alone because coordination leaks intent. The more sovereign you become, the fewer people need access to your thinking. Access is a privilege, not a right. Another warning: power amplifies your flaws. If you carry resentment, it will harden into cruelty. If you carry insecurity, it will calcify into paranoia. Sovereignty demands internal order. Without it, you become unstable and instability is hunted. You are no longer protected by equality narratives. When you fail, no one will cushion the fall. When you succeed, no one will credit your restraint. This path offers no applause, only leverage. And here is the final inversion. Power does not make you free, it makes you accountable. Every move echoes. Every mistake compounds. Every weakness costs more than it used to. That is the price of operating above the average. If you can't accept that price, step back now. There is no shame in choosing comfort. The world is designed to absorb men who want to belong. But if you continue, understand this clearly, you are no longer seeking peers. validation, or fairness. You are selecting environments and positioning yourself inside them with intent. This is not a message. It is a filter. Most will feel offended and leave. Some will feel threatened and argue. A few will recognize themselves and go silent. Those few won't comment. They won't ask questions. They will adjust behavior. And that is the only response that matters.